Armin Meiwes, also known as the Rotenburg Cannibal, is a German man who was convicted of killing and eating a voluntary victim who he had found via the internet. What sort of man could commit such acts? What was gestating in his psyche, and why did it culminate in the loss of human life? Meiwes was born in the German town of Kassel in 1961. He had a lonely childhood and an oppressive home life. His father was extremely stern and paid his son little attention. His parents' relationship was equally distant, and his father left the family when Armin was 8. For the most part, Armin was well behaved, but a deviant pathology was beginning to show. He was fascinated by one particular chapter in the story of Hansel and Gretel, in which Hansel is fattened up for later consumption. With his father gone, his mother took the role of discipliner. She would admonish him in public and insisted on accompanying him everywhere. Without a male role model, he invented an imaginary friend called Frankie, through whom he vented his first cannibalistic thoughts. At age 12, Meiwes began to fantasize about eating his friends, as they would become part of him and stay with him forever. A desperate solution for a very lonely and misunderstood only child. As he grew, he remained dependent on his mother, living with her until she died in 1999, leaving him the large family mansion. He built a shrine to her in the house, complete with a mannequin he would lay on a pillow each night. Totally alone for the first time in his life, without the demands of a controlling mother, he developed an interest in internet pornography, particularly that featuring torture and pain, and through these internet sites, Meiwes found his way into his first chat rooms about cannibalism. He posted an advertisement on the Cannibal Cafe stating he was looking for a willing volunteer who was well built and 18 to 30 years old to be slaughtered and then consumed. Many people answered the advertisement but backed out. Then in March 2001, Bernd Jürgen Armando Brandes, an engineer from Berlin, answered the advertisement. On the 9th of March 2001, Brandes went to Meiwes' home in Amstetten, and after having sex, Brandes swallowed numerous sleeping pills, a bottle of cough medicine, and some schnapps before Meiwes amputated his penis for the two of them to eat together. Brandes tried to eat a piece of the penis raw, but was apparently too chewy, so Meiwes proceeded to fry it with a little garlic and pepper, but burned it. Brandes lay bleeding to death in the bath for the next 3 hours, while Meiwes read a Star Trek book. 10 hours later, Brandes was still alive, so Meiwes stabbed him several times in the neck to put an end to his pain. Meiwes hung Brandes' lifeless body on a meat hook and proceeded to cut the flesh into sizable chunks and grind the bones into flour. He dismembered the entire body so that he could store the parts in his freezer, which he proceeded to eat over the following 10 months. The entire process of Brandes' penis amputation and subsequent death had been recorded on videotape by the pair and would later be used as evidence against Meiwes. Meiwes was arrested in December 2002 when a college student in Innsbruck phoned the police after seeing a new advertisement for victims and details about the killing on the internet. Investigators searched his home and found body parts and the videotape of the killing. On the 30th of January 2004, Meiwes was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 8 years in prison. But in April 2005, a German court ordered a retrial after prosecutors appealed Meiwes' sentence. They believed he should have been convicted of murder. Among the court's questions and answers is whether Brandes agreed to the killing and whether he was legally capable of doing so at the moment, taking into account his apparent mental problems as well as his significant intake of alcohol. Other aspects of the retrial determined whether Meiwes killed to satiate his own desires or because he was asked to, the former having been repeatedly rejected by Meiwes during testimony. At his retrial, a psychologist stated that Meiwes could reoffend and still had fantasies about devouring the flesh of young people. On the 10th of May 2006, a court in Frankfurt convicted Meiwes of murder and sentenced him to life imprisonment.